Hey everyone, happy Saturday. I hope you're all doing really well this morning. And thank you for tuning in for our live with Nicole Cozean from Pelvic Sanity. Today we're coming from What's So Workspace in Neutral Bay, which is where the Pelvic Hub works out of. And we are surrounded by this lovely wallpaper, but one of my favourite places to help me recharge is actually a forest, so I thought it was pretty great. If I haven't tuned in before, Nicole is an amazing women's health physio based in Orange County, California, USA. She has a really special interest in pelvic pain. She was especially interstitial cystitis and related conditions. She was voted the 2017 IC Physio of the Year, which is amazing, and she is also the first physio to serve on the Interstitial Cystitis Association Board of Directors, which is amazing, and she is the author of the amazing book, The Interstitial Cystitis Solution, which I'm sure we'll be referencing in today's chat with all the talk about pain flare management. So hopefully Nicole is just here, so getting her on. Meanwhile, you can get distracted by my really interesting background for today. Hey Nicole!
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really good, thanks. Yay.
That's awesome. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to turn this volume up so I can hear you clearly. I'm in my calming forest background today at my at my workspace, but I was just saying that the forest is one of the really calming spaces for me when I have a pain flare myself, so it's quite a interesting background for today. I thought we'd get started today. Obviously we're speaking about pain flares, and I guess could you just give a brief intro into what you mean, or what we mean when we say pain flare?
Yeah, so, and I guess it can also just be a symptom flare too, right? So typically we think of flares as pain, but they can also be exacerbations of your current symptoms. For instance, if you have really, really bad urgency and frequency of urination, but you don't actually have pain, then a flare for you would be an increase in trips to the bathroom, or that urethral feeling, that feeling of needing to pee, the UTI feeling. And so, or it can be any sort of increased, sustained increased level of your sort of baseline amount of symptoms. So, the easiest way to kind of think about it is like, if you're on average fluctuate between a 3 to a 5, kind of no matter what you do for the pain, and then all of a sudden you wake up at a 7, then that would be considered your flare. And flares can be short, it can be like last for a long time. Everything's super different. So, but I would say it's like a distinct difference from your current state of your symptoms, whatever that is.
Okay, perfect. And we'll be talking today around pain or flare symptom management with regards to interstitial cystitis. But do you use this for other patients in your clinic?
Yeah, totally. Like, so we use it for endometriosis, for anoralgia, for IC, for kind of even frequency of urination that isn't really IC, whatever that means, right?
Yeah.
For any sort of, even a low back pain flare, if I'm seeing someone that just has primarily their back pain, that can flare up. So that's, yeah, I use that sort of ubiquitous across any diagnosis. Even if you have just stress urinary, sometimes I don't really call that a flare, but definitely like increase in symptoms, increase in a number of leaks that day, for sort of like an unknown reason, or we think it's unknown, or as we're going to say. Yeah, so like that's kind of what I mean by that.
Yeah, cool. And you've got a lot of detailed information about the flare management plans in your book, The Interstitial Cystitis Solution. And I thought a good thing to start with, I noticed that you have a few rules around your flare busting plans and how you create them with your patients. So do you want to talk us through, I guess, what you would do with a patient to start with in terms of creating and discussing their flare busting plan that they're making up for themselves?
Yeah, totally. So that is actually a downloadable resource too. So it's part of the book, but if you go to, I think it's on our website. I'm pretty sure it is. And if it's not, you can DM me or mark it right here. But yeah, it's a flare busting plan. This one is specific to interstitial cystitis. We also have it for other conditions as well, but basically it's the same thing, right? I want people we want to take the fear out of flare, because here's one of the big myths about a pain flare or a flare of symptoms. It's like, oh no, I'm going back, right? I'm back to the beginning. Oh crap. And if you guys feel like that listening, why don't you give me a big like thumbs up if you guys feel like that? But that's where people, we got to take that fear out, and we need to think of it more as like your body is just trying to give you information. Something has gone awry. It's giving you some information. It does not mean that you have backslid all the way to the beginning. It does not mean that it's going to last that long, even though it feels like that, right? So that's one of the first things I make sure that everybody kind of gets, is that it can feel like it's day one of your pain, but you are a different person based on all of the work that you've done to get to this point. And so even if you take a couple steps back for a short period of time, it is not taking a big step back. So that's the first big, kind of one of my big rules, is that we take the fear out of flaring and we make it more like a puzzle piece, and that your body's trying to give you information, and we need to figure out like what happened.
So that's so nice as well, because I know that myself, when I go into a flare, even though I know all of this consciously, when you get that and you have a symptom that you haven't had in a long time, or you've made lots of progress and you go back for a little while, it is a mindset thing. And I think that's one thing that when I first read your book and got in touch with you about coming out to Australia, that was something that I really loved about your approach to treatment, because it's really empowering when you go into that, it's almost like a brain fog in terms of, it's quite stressful, and then you're like, okay, don't worry, I've got a plan, like this is not forever. And yeah, I found that initially I was like, oh, I know this stuff, I'm not going to write it down or have it anywhere. And then, oh my gosh.
Okay, so because this little worksheet right here came out of a frustration on my part, because my patients would come back and I would be like, okay, we taught all of the things, and then they would go into a pain flare, and then they'd come back, make an appointment, and I was like, oh, did you do A? Did you do B? Did you do C? And then they're like, no. And I'm like, well, why not? But it's not your fault, right? You do get it, that sympathetic nervous system, upregulation, fear-based, protective mechanism, and you're like, oh God, and you can't think straight. So that's why you have to write it down. And I say, stick it on your closet mirror, stick it on your bathroom mirror, stick it somewhere where it's like, uh-oh, I'm in a pain flare, I need to go get my plan. Then on this is where you have written down, like, what are 3 things you've learned across your journey so far that you know that when you do those things, more often than not, you feel better. For a lot of people, that's like, or it's happy baby yoga pose, or I don't care what, if it's taking a walk, if it's calling your mom, like, it doesn't have to be physical. It can completely be mental. And so over the time that you're working on your symptoms, I want people to write down. That's the first thing. List 3 things you can do that has worked in the past that you can relieve your symptoms. A lot of times that's taking a bath, smelling lavender, anything that usually makes you feel safer, makes you feel more. So those are the things you're going to go to first when you're in a flare. That is one of the things I make people write down. The other category is like, what medical interventions do you know that you've tried that really knock pain down? For you, that is putting in a muscle relaxant suppository. If that's going to an acupuncture session, if that's going to a workout, if whatever is like medical type of intervention that you know has helped your for this symptom that you have that's up, we have you mark that down. And sometimes those might be different categories, right? So I even go so far sometimes in categorizing flares. So for instance, if we're talking about interstitial cystitis, if you have lower abdominal suprapubic pain, that might be different than urethral burning. And if one of those, and maybe let's say for the suprapubic pain, that lower abdominal pain, maybe that a colon massage, you know, that makes that feel better. But that doesn't do anything if you have urethral pain. So it's really starting to really start to know your body and know what symptom means what, and what intervention will help that specific symptom. I really try to help my patients like hone in on those things so that they have a plan for if some crap goes down and it's a little bit crazy. Flares are part of the journey. They're going to happen. If you haven't had one, you will have one. If you just had one, it won't be your last. Like, that's just the nature of what this is. And I feel like the more that we understand, all our bodies try to do is tell us that something that you did or didn't do, it didn't like, right? You're in a stressful situation, fight with your mom or anything like that can exacerbate. So we need to, number one, identify what we think, which is one of the is understand the cause, right? So we need to like reflect back once we get our pain down, once we do, even if it doesn't go down right, we start to positively interact with ourselves, take a bath and do the thing, know that that's going to be helpful. Then we need to start reflecting a little bit and understand the cause. And that's where, that's also right here. And the more that you work with your PT or your physio, or talk to a family member, people will start patterns, and if you really start to look back, it'll be like, dang it, every single time my mother-in-law comes into town, I have a pain flare. And like, if we know that, then we can sometimes start to even do our flare busting tap even before that trigger happens, if it's a predictable trigger. So
totally. And I guess that when you're talking about that trigger, so it might be even just travel, it might be having like a travel plan and all of that, because as you said, once you get that self-awareness, and realizing that different symptoms could be caused from different things, and there's different strategies around treating each one, which is what I found kind of difficult when everything was all up at once. Then you become really empowered to then and I think the more empowered you are, and the more I like how you speak about your body's just giving you feedback, because sometimes it can kind of add to the negativity of a flare if you kind of get really annoyed at it. But that's sort of like, hey, you're just giving me feedback. Okay, I'll take it on board. Like, how can I help us work through this? It's just it's a nice change in mindset, I think.
Yeah, and it's hard. It takes practice, because sometimes you want to like break something if you're super frustrated, and that's just part of it, right? But I just feel like the more that you practice that, and you might not do great at the first time, but the more that you think about shifting that mindset or thinking about what your body can tell you, the more you're going to be able to do it on demand. And then you spike so high because it won't be as full. So, because really at the end of the day, a pain flare is going to upregulate your nervous system. That's just what happens. And so we have to do everything in our power to sort of keep everything down, like low level, and things that we have control over and things that we don't. We have to control what we can control in that situation, and a lot of that is mindset and the things that you choose to do off of your flare busting plan. All choices that, in order to, if it doesn't work, then we move on to the next thing, right? And reevaluate. Because I'm not trying to say that everything's perfect, right? With flares, right? It's frustrating, and they sometimes
so
don't make
frustrating.
sense. Even that, it's like, okay, this one's not gonna let me know why, you know, and we just fit sometimes. And so I think that coaching, I try to coach my patients through that type of, sometimes you just got to sit with it. Maybe that's this flare, you know, that like, yeah, we can't figure it out all the time, but that's still okay. And you'll still come out of it, you know?
And that's reassuring as well, knowing that like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to last forever. Like, even if you don't know the answer, it's like, it isn't going to last forever. So in terms of the length of flares that when you're talking to your patients, what do you say in terms of, I know it's how long is a piece of string, everyone's different, but in terms of giving them a bit of a guide as to what to expect in terms of length of pain flare, I guess.
Yeah, I think that completely depends on, once you understand the cause, you can sort of start to predict how long it's going to be, right? If you know you are in pain flare because your husband lost his job, that pain flare might be a little bit more prolonged because part of it is going to be your stress level is going to go down, or when you can shift your mind. But the bigger the real problem, the higher the stress is, right? So, and then on the other flip side of it is that you might need more than one thing to combat flare based on what the underlying cause is. So to give an example, let's say you helped your sister move over the weekend and you picked up a bunch of boxes, and now you're feeling UTI even more. You're using your lower abdominal a little bit more. You're using your back wrong. You only moved for one day. Like, that might mean that your flare is going to last a little bit less time. And it's a task that you don't normally do. So there's going to be some soreness on top of it that can go away within a 2 to 3 day window. If you, what's a good example? If you just had intercourse and you know that normally flares you, and you had didn't do some stuff before, and then it's like, oh no, like, what do I? Sometimes it's most of the time, if you have predictable paths of how long they'll last. So I think it depends on the state of your nervous system. Are you already upregulated a lot to begin with? Flares will last longer then. It takes a longer time for you to come down. If you're already pretty good, then, and you just happen to blip up a little bit, then that will likely be a lesser pain flare. Usually, that's a big generalization, but usually.
And that's where
and then you just have to assess how, and really it's about honest self-assessment. How good was I at addressing it as soon as I had the symptoms? The first thing I'll ask people, if they'll come in, say on Monday, and they say, I'm in such a bad flare, and I'm like, when did it start? And they'll be like, I don't know. And I'll be like, okay, well, when did it really start? Like, let's think back. Was it there on Thursday? What'd you do on Thursday? What'd you do on Wednesday? Started on Wednesday. Okay, what did you do on Monday? You know, so it's like, it can be a delayed reaction. So we can sort of backtrack and figure out that truly understand the cause. Once we have the cause, then we can sort of predict how long it will be there for. I know that's a general answer, but that's kind of.
No, I know you can't really do one sort of like, 2 days, 24 hours and 24 minutes. There's no facts around the flare times. But do you find that there's sometimes a correlation though between people that do a lot of the sort of ongoing self-management techniques and sort of ways to manage their own symptoms more regularly and number of pain flares? Do you find that there's the people that are sort of, even though they don't have symptoms, are still doing the self-management strategies just as sort of like just doing this as sort of like almost like brushing my teeth, sort of health, looking after myself? Do you find that those people that sort of persist with that self-management have less flares? Is there any sort of correlation between that, or?
I would say that for sure. Or if they have the same amount of flares, the flares are have a lesser peak, right? So they won't be as bad. In the same way that, like, I don't know, I kind of equate this kind of stuff with being like a true maintenance plan. If you've been working so hard and maybe you're not going to be anymore, something like that, but you're supposed to be working on your stuff, then it's kind of like if you were overweight and you lost 100 pounds, you can't just get to your goal and then be like, cool, now I'm just going to eat whatever I want, right? It's like it has to be an adaptation to the stuff that got you there. It needs to be maintained over time, and hopefully at the point where you get to that, it's part of your routine, not that big of a change anymore and stuff. But inevitably, one of the biggest challenges that people have is that they're super awesome as they're tapering down with physical therapy. They're motivated. They keep doing their stuff. Then doing it a little less, and then a little less, and then they start inching up, right? And then they have a pain flare, and then it's like, what is gone? How is this happening? I was fine. Like, well, that's when we have to have honest self-assessment. Was like, did you fall off the wagon a little bit with any of the stuff that you were doing? Inevitably, sometimes it does. It happens. Right? You get a little bit lax in what you're doing, and then sometimes that's the way the control is sometimes.
Yeah, the feedback comes right back.
Yep.
Not necessarily. So I had a few questions, and we'll put some questions out if we have any more time, but afterwards as well, to anyone tuning in who wants to ask Nicole a question. I did see one come up before around pelvic physio, so we'll shoot back to that. But I had a question. There is a young woman with interstitial cystitis who with her flares, she feels like it's she gets the sort of urine infection symptoms, and she said that Panadol doesn't help. So Panadol in Australia is sort of like, I think it's Tylenol over in the US. But she did say that the only thing that seems to help her manage these urine infection type symptoms are antibiotics. So she wanted to know, do you think she can get away without antibiotics and control the symptoms?
Right. So first of all, we have to make sure that it's not actually an infection, but in the absence of an infection, right? Then now in the United States, guidelines are that antibiotics should not be prescribed in the absence of an infection, even if the symptoms are infected. So sometimes what you're actually getting is not necessarily the effect of antibiotic itself, but you're getting the anti-inflammatory effect of the antibiotic. So that's probably, it could be one why the Tylenol, whatever you call it, is actually helpful. And the antibiotic is helpful because they might be actually working on the same anti-inflammatory pathway. Could be one reason why. if that's the case, if a short-acting anti-inflammatory your flare, in terms of what are the causes of flare, there's usually an uptick in something that actually caused a low-grade an inflammation spike. So for some people that can be food-related, for other people it can be activity-related, but anti-inflammatory works, that usually means that there is something that physically triggered the flare, versus some of these ones that seem to come out of the blue. Sometimes those are where anti-inflammatory medications don't work. Sometimes those are more stress-related, nervous system related, kind of nerves misfiring to your brain, that kind of stuff, where there is no inflammatory load, so an anti-inflammatory doesn't have anything to like work on.
Yeah, totally. So if she was experiencing these urinary symptoms, urinary tract like infection symptoms, and she had gone to the doctor and had clearance that it wasn't actually an infection, what could she? Where would you start her off with in terms of doing in the flare management?
Yeah, and like hopefully she would have been at least sometimes gone to a pelvic PT, and then that's where it's like, what typically for her is that symptom? Is it the muscles of the urethra? Is it the deeper pelvic floor muscles? Is it her back that's causing that the urethral flare? Like, that's where we would hope that if we assume that it's muscle spasms that are also irritating the bladder, which is common, then you would do a lot of stuff that would downtrain the pelvic floor, would some deep breathing, some relax, something that squat, stretch, and get into that pose. So something that a relaxing factor to the muscle itself, that would be a key. That's sort of probably where I would start with that for that. So hopefully that helps.
No, that I'm sure that that will help her a lot. And if she hasn't gone to, I saw the question before, if I remember it correctly, was around does pelvic physio help? So we have chatted about this in our last live, but just briefly, do you want to just do a quick answer to that question?
Yeah, there is absolutely yes, pelvic physio, and just in general, and decrease of IC. So remember that IC is a pain condition and a urination where the pain is perceived coming from the urinary bladder, but the more that we find about the condition, it's a muscle, a nervous system problem primarily, and a little bit of so really at the end of the musculoskeletal, the muscles, the nerves on the pelvic floor area actually cause symptoms I see or symptoms of a urinary infection. And so that's where some of the flare busting stuff comes in, that you want to decrease the tension around the pelvic floor, not irritating the urethra and bladder to give you false signals that either have an infection more often than normal. So pelvic physio is a way to get that feel out and hopefully take pressure off of either nerves or bladder itself, so that it can create those signals to the brain.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Joanna, do you have any other questions that you get asked a lot around flare management, or that are common questions from the patients that you see? I think one that I initially struggled with was learning that sometimes I just do the activity and there's pain, but I actually get out of pain by doing the activity. Does that make sense?
Oh, interesting. You mean like walking or something like that? Or
yeah, so say if I have pain when I'm so say if I have pain when I'm walking, or if I'm doing some stretches and it's a little bit sore, I learned that sometimes, even if it is a little bit sore, that as long as I didn't go, as long as I didn't go through past my boundaries, that sometimes a little bit of discomfort actually, it's nothing to worry about really, and it's sometimes good to just move anyway, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Do you give any rules around that?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point, because that's where I feel like you really need a skilled little coach in a pelvic physio to help you decide when, like, no, I do need to like keep walking a little bit more. It will work itself out, versus like we do need to respect the type of pain. There is a balance there, that it's super individual. Your pelvic PT are able to work those things with you and help you to listen to your body and to see what your body is doing there, to be like, actually, no, I don't feel like your pelvic floor is going crazy right now. I do want you to continue to walk. Or like, yikes, you walked a couple miles. Pubococcygeus is crazy right now. We need to back off of the walking and this instead. But the answer is rarely sit around and do nothing. So the answer is not just ignore it and pray that it goes away. Like, that is not a good flare busting plan. You need to be
and just resting and like lying down also. Yeah, just resting and lying down is also not, usually not
unless,
a way to go out.
With the possible exception of meditation, usually not what it's about. That's usually not going to fix it, unless exception of maybe doing like a actual guided meditation app situation where you're actually, but even then, that active relaxation you're do. Things that I just talked about in my Instagram story just yesterday is that, which might be frustrating for me as a practitioner sometimes, is that we feel like when we're in a flare, like it's too hard to go to pelvic PT or acupuncture or something. But man, if that list is on your medical prevention thing that has helped you in the past, you have to figure out how to get there. If you need to have someone drive you, if you do a telehealth consult with somebody, we want to be seeing you guys when you're in those flare states, because then we can actually get information from your body as to what can help you work through that. So we find quite a lot of talking people off the ledge when they call and say, my is so bad today, I don't think I can come into therapy. And it's like, that's exactly what you should be doing at this time. If you can get yourself here, you can have someone help you. If you can get medication to make you make the trip, like, we want to see you. So it's another just fear face. You're in freeze mode sometimes, where it's like, oh no, I'm in a flare. Like, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. To have an actual plan of who you call and what you do, and a step-by-step process to get you into a better mindset to deal with that freeze mode. I'm not coming in, I can't do anything, is all nervous regulation and catastrophizing, right? So that's what we don't want. That makes pain flares worse. So we really try to discourage away from going away from the people that can help. Go towards those people. Even if you don't, you got to find the way.
Yeah, and that's where writing down and having that plan in front of you is so helpful, because the other thing that I noticed myself when I was going through flares was I was gravitating towards foods that I knew were would put me more into a flare. When I was fine, I wouldn't go towards them. But
this is where, okay, so we need to address the elephant in the room where that put this on the flare busting plan. There are a lot of people that are food sensitive. Not everybody with IC is food sensitive as you might think. But everybody, no matter what, knows what foods like are totally fine. 100% fine. You know they don't flare you. During the time of a pain flare, we want to make sure that we eliminate variables, right? So if there's even a slight possibility that something might be irritating, you want to just get a list of things that you know that you love, that you know that won't flare you, that you eat during that time. And that's why I call it safe food. We want to take the fear out of food too with IC. But there are some people that are quite sensitive and there are people that aren't. But no matter what, when you're in a pain flare, you want to make sure, like I said, that you decrease that variable that could possibly be contributing.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes in. So we definitely have a plan for what we're going to have during that time. So, and a lot of that is it can be as anti-inflammatory foods. It can be something as simple as something that you really like, that you feel like safe, reminds you of a good time, about a good place. It can be that if you know that it's not going to flare you. But for those real sensitive people to foods, then you should definitely stick to that stuff to make sure that you eliminate that variable of some rogue ingredient like causes problem.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that you love, because sometimes you can, like, I used to write down all of the foods that I'm quite intolerant to a few foods, and I used to write down all of, like, I had the best intentions in my plan, and I'd write down the ones that were like the absolute best options for me, but I didn't necessarily love. And so you'd get to it, and gosh, sometimes you look at the list and you're just like, I just do not feel like eating this. This is horrible. So that comfort. So I know. And then you're already feeling like, I was feeling like times pretty sorry for myself. And then you've got to eat this food that you don't really feel like eating. So yeah, I like that you put food that you actually want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that list should be relatively long, because really at the end of the day, unless you're crazy food sensitive, like, there's a lot of stuff that you guys can be eating. So it should be very long. And I wanted that to be a very positive thing. Instead of being like, avoid these tricks, I want to be like, no, you can't this, So that's why I sort of put it like that in that language.
Cool.
And then the other thing to realize is that flares are rarely one thing. Flares are usually a combination of a bunch of little things that happens at one point in time that tip you over the edge. Okay. And so the more that we can really feel like which one of those things was the biggest contributing factor, or which three combinations of stuff do I know that always gives me a problem, then we can start to get ourselves, we can start to have a little bit of self-awareness of our pattern. So a real common one with that is, like, let's say you don't like your job, right? And so I have a patient that she seriously, like, hates her job. It gives her anxiety because she always has to go into meetings, and she doesn't want to have to tell people she has IC and all this stuff. So by Thursday, she's cool. She's awesome. It's very cyclical with her. And then gets into a pain flare, usually on Sunday. And we figured out that she started to have negative thought, anxiety about going to work that day. And that was what was her pain flare. So she was saying, started to actually track when these fluctuations were happening. And that's found. So the other thing that precedes all of the flare busting plan is a symptom tracker, because you have to know which symptoms are problems and how are those changing over time with what activity. You can really start to piece together what is actually happening, not falling into the trap of assuming, because assuming that something happened and that's why I'm in a pain flare can really steer you away from what actually caused the flare.
Yeah.
So we always want like actual data. We do want to listen to what you feel like happened or what your gut feeling is about it, but we also need to back it up with some data on did your symptoms go higher when you drink lemonade? Yes or no? Or do you just feel like it's lemonade but it was really that you got in a fight with your mom, so it's like what other things happen that are consistent, have to track that over time to truly understand your flares.
Yeah, you have to be almost like a detective for your own health, don't you, to try and really yeah, and really take control of your own health.
Yes, and it takes time. Like, this is not something that you could fill out in 5 seconds. This is like months sometimes of working with pelvic PT and like thinking that one thing, and then do the symptom tracker, and it's like, God dang it, I did drink lemonade that day, and oh my God, like that, I'm fine. So then it can't be that triggers your flare time, because we're looking for consistent things that do, and different types of stress are thing. Even half stress times can be a pain flare. So just knowing your personality too, and what thinking is it really important, and knowing what also brings you down. Like, for some people, going on to exercise would be stress relieving, and for other people that would be flare relieving. So you really gotta, there's not a fits in there for everybody, but you just got to know yourself. You need help sometimes to figure out what those things are.
Yeah, and someone as well, just sort of like, even if you're taking control and you're doing all of it yourself and tracking all these symptoms, having someone that's sort of like, well, I know the pelvic physio for me is sort of like the person that you can problem solve with, and like you said before, they can decide, they can help you work through like, hey, this was really sore, should I push through, is that going to help, and things like that. So it's nice to have that, I guess, your person on your journey to be able to maybe see, especially if you write things down, sometimes that you guys can make a correlation that we just sometimes don't see. So it might be, so sometimes we just think, oh, we wrote that down, but it probably didn't affect us actually. And you're like, oh, but it happened like every week, like made you worse every time this happened. Yeah,
totally. And like, kind of with your background, sometimes where you are as the patient, you cannot see the forest from the trees, right?
Totally.
You need someone with the bird's eye view to be like, actually, Sally, like, every Monday you come in and say this is the problem. So what's happening before then?
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean with the lady that was flaring because she hated her job.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have thought that, right?
Right? Not physical. She could have sworn it was because the foam roller exercise I gave her. She thought that, right? And I was like, you're doing foam roller like every day, so it can't be that, right? So it's just one of those things that you kind of get like, I get gut feeling about too, where it's like, there's something else. There's got to be something else. You know, and just gotta, as PTs, we have to dig a little bit into people's lives and really challenge their belief system, right? Like, prove to me that like, oh, I 100% will believe everything, but we gotta prove, and prove it in a consistent way.
Yeah.
So
that's such awesome information, and I guess the underlying message that I'm hearing is that it takes time. It's that your body's always giving you feedback. That it's great to have someone in your corner, a health practitioner, to help you work through it, and that it's not going to last forever.
It's not going to last forever, and it's not going to put you back to where you started, even if it feels like that. And you have to have an actual physical written plan that you can go to, because your little brain during a pain flare is going to go to a negative place, that you have to be able to go to the and be like, okay, what am I going to do? Or have someone else help you. Remember your husband, your girlfriend, whatever. Bring this to me when I'm crazy, because, or when I'm saying nut stuff about how I'm going back, it's good, it's just like at the beginning, blah blah blah. Like, have people in your corner that don't know about your busting plan that can help you implement it when you might not be able to think and straight and do it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's great. Yeah, it's great to have that plan, and also that reality check when you kind of get into that like overwhelmed state when pain brings on all those other feelings that and associations that you have. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, and I have one patient that had like a little 3-sentence mantra.
oh, I love
This
it.
is not forever. I am strong. This too will pass.
Oh,
That she
I
just
love that.
said over again, right? Like, so I sometimes I'll have people write down that on there, that they can like remember that. They can say those positive affirmations to themselves too, to know when you're going through that time. So
yeah, it's a great way to bring you back into the present moment too, isn't it? Rather than going into that's so nice. I love that.
Yeah,
cool.
it's super cool.
It's super cool. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We hope you found it really helpful. Nicole's almost coming to Australia. So close.
It's still like 3 weeks. I know. So crazy.
I can't believe it. I know. So Friday the 23rd, we still have our evening event at 6 till 8:30 in Neutral Bay in Sydney, where we'll be discussing the pelvic ortho connection. And that's basically for any healthcare professional who's interested in learning more about the pelvic floor and how we can all work together to optimize patient outcomes, isn't it? And that's going to be held at Osana Healthcare in Cremorne. Sorry, not Neutral Bay. And there's some wine and nibbles, and it'll be a really lovely night. So Nicole's taking us through that. And then on Saturday and Sunday, the 24th and 25th, we still have a spot left on the Women's Health course. So come and learn all about the holistic management and treatment of interstitial cystitis with the amazing Nicole. So that's going to be a really fun weekend, and we have a wonderful group that's come together for that. So we're really excited.
Yeah. Hey, and the pelvic physio, thanks for the awesome chat comments.
Yeah.
Courtney, Inspirational DPT, thanks for joining.
Oh,
all of the stuff is downloadable on my website. I think it's the iSolution tab. You should be able to get the PDF version of that, and either for your clinic or for yourself if you are a person with interstitial cystitis. So, and then it's obviously also in the book, along with the symptom tracker, which we talked about a little bit. So
yeah, the book's actually also really lovely in terms of that methodical. It's so well written, Nicole. It's so methodical in terms of and helpful in terms of it's a really easy read, and it talks about, it's a great introduction around IC and the roads to recovery, and it really enables you to personalize. It's like a little it's like a little guidebook to kind of get you through. It's so nice. So check it out. In Australia, you can get it through Fish Pond or Booktopia, I think. So but I'll link that in the bottom of the video when I put it up so that they can see. Yeah, cool.
Do you have any more questions? I don't think we have any more questions.
No, that's us. So I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the day or evening over there, and we will. You'll be having another blog. There's another blog coming on the Pelvic Hub website from Nicole around pain flares. So it'll be great. It'll be a great summary to just kind of reflect about what we spoke about as well. And then we've also got some other really wonderful blogs on IC that Nicole's written for us as well. So go and check them out. And Pelvic Sanity's also got amazing resources and blogs as well. So Nicole's got a great site there to go and get all the resources you need.
Cool. And then make sure you guys check out on our story highlights, we talk about all of the myths I see. So I think it's important that we get like the myths out in the open and talk about them and in our story highlights. So
yeah, cool. That's awesome. I hope everyone goes and checks that out, and we will see you all again on our next live, hopefully.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Bye.